Today I'm sitting down with Juan Salgado. Juan is a 26-year-old athlete, trainer, coach, and entrepreneur. He's the owner and CEO of Chosen Ones Training, where he coaches powerlifters for competition. Now, I met Juan, or became aware of his presence. We've never actually met in person, but I've been following his journey since about 2012, where we met in a Facebook fitness group. And back then, Juan was just a skinny 17-year-old kid looking to get jacked and shredded. He joined this group, I would assume, mostly for motivation and to be part of a tribe, if you will, of fitness enthusiasts. But I watched Juan go from no experience in the gym, constantly probing others for all the info he could soak up to make him bigger, stronger, and leaner, to one of the most accomplished, driven, and knowledgeable individuals I've ever met. At some point over the next few years after joining the Facebook group and after he got some lifting experience under his belt, he decided he wanted to pursue personal training and eventually transition from bodybuilding focused training to what he discovered to be his true love, powerlifting. After learning the principles and programming through years of competition, study, and trial and error, Juan decided he wanted to coach athletes and prepare them to compete in this sport that he had fallen in love with. Since then, Juan has built a thriving online coaching business and is one of the most accomplished and professional people I know. He's truly self-made and an inspiration to not only me, but many athletes and entrepreneurs around the world. So, without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome my friend, Juan Salgado.
Juan, thanks for doing this, man. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me, man.
So I did this whole intro to this podcast where I kind of broke down for people who you are and how I know you. But I figure you and I can kind of get into the details of like how you got to where you're at and kind of the things you do in your life on a daily that you feel are like important to what you do and keep you progressing and growing as a business and as a person. So if you could just kind of break down where you started from, like how did you grow up? What kind of a household were you in,
Yeah. So I grew up in Santa Ana, California. It's a little city in Orange County, and we're not too far away from the beach, probably about an hour away from LA for those of you who aren't familiar with California. And I grew up with both of my parents. My dad was kind of in and out of my life. He got into lots of trouble, so he was in and out of jail. So I didn't grow up too much with him. It wasn't until high school my dad finally just got started getting out of trouble. And throughout my life, I was always super into sports. I was obsessed with basketball. Just like how, if anybody knows how obsessed I am right now with fitness, I was just as obsessed with basketball. And I would say one thing, because I've definitely self-reflected on my life, I've done that work. I think one thing that's just helped me get to where I am is the fact that I was an only child. So I didn't grow up with any brothers or sisters. And when you're an only child, you really just kind of learn how to entertain yourself. You learn the art of being alone, which I think is learning how to be alone is like a superpower. And yeah, so since I was always on my own, I didn't really do much except play basketball, read books. I feel like I learned a lot about life through just TV, like watching Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, Boy Meets World, Family Matters, Full House, those like 90s type shows. And so I got super into basketball. I ended up playing varsity all 4 years, but it turns out that no college wants to recruit a 5'6", 120-pound kid.
How about
So
that?
So I ended up I ended up kind of getting a little bit out of shape because I stopped playing basketball and I didn't know what to do with my life. And I remember I always would see alumni come to our games, and it was crazy to me how like these guys who were like on the football team or on the basketball team who used to have abs would just come back to like visit us not even a year later, and they'd be like fat. And that was like terrifying. That was terrifying to me. I was like, dude, I don't want to be like that. So I ended up joining the gym, and I instantly became obsessed with it. I found all of these YouTube channels. The 2013, 2012, 2014, 15, that was the golden era of fitness at YouTube.
For sure.
And I researched so much. Like I'd spend all of my day just seeing YouTube videos, reading articles. Like I was obsessed. It was definitely not healthy. Mm-hmm. Like I'd wake up in the morning, I'd see a Chris Jones YouTube video, which we'll get into that. That's kind of sort of how you and me met. Yeah. And then I'd go to school and then I'd just read articles. I'd come back from school. I'd watch like Hodge Twins for like a few hours and then go to sleep and then wake up, go to the gym and just repeat. And I ended up finding this Facebook group page called Physiques of Greatness. Mm-hmm. And I'm not sure if that was Chris Jones' YouTube page. And for those of you who don't know, Chris Jones is like one of the original like fitness YouTubers who really I think he's really responsible for pushing fitness forward into like the mainstream.
Oh yeah.
And I don't know if it was his Facebook group, but I know he was definitely in it. And this Facebook group page had people from all over the world. Yeah. And a lot of people who ended up actually becoming like somewhat big names. Like Matt Ogus was in that group, Chris Jones was in that group, Chris Elkins was in that group.
Yeah.
You and me were both in that group. Like a lot of people were in that group. It definitely started off a lot of people from like 3DMJ, the popular bodybuilding coaching system team. They were in it, and I just always would ask a lot of questions on there. Just always try to learn from people as much as I can. And after about a year is when I started when I did my first fitness transformation photo, and people from my high school, it was a year after I had graduated, everybody from my high school that I went with, all of them hit me up. They were like, dude, I need your workout program. Like whatever you did, like I need you to tell me. So
yes.
That's kind of really where my business started. I started coaching people for free for like a few years. Mm-hmm. And like literally just for free, like people who just hit me up. Like I was doing online coaching before I even knew what online coaching was. Like I would also drive to like people's gyms. I'd pay the day pass. They wouldn't even pay it for me. And like I just train them. And about a year later, before I knew it, I was like, I had a whole like portfolio of transformations of people that I helped. And that's when I was just like, I think I should start charging people for this.
Yeah. So was that a goal while you were doing all that free training? Were you thinking like I might be able to put together a portfolio from this, or did that just kind of like ended up that's how it was? You were like, oh shit, I could turn this into something.
Dude, yeah, it was definitely not planned at all. I was actually going to school for accounting. Like I didn't even know I needed to be a personal trainer. I chose accounting because I thought it would be the safest career choice. I thought, oh, okay, cool, I get my accounting degree and then I'll instantly have a job like as soon as I graduate. Right. Personal training definitely wasn't my goal. It stumbled upon me kind of, and I just ended up loving it even more.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, you mentioned this group, and the group, that is for sure where I met you, and the guy that I host my other podcast with, Jesse Cole. We have a podcast called Long Lost Brothers. And hopefully we can get you over there sometime too on that podcast. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of just, joshing and fucking around and bullshitting. So if you're interested in that, you should come over there and hang out with us on there. But yeah, we were all in this group, and I just remember it was this like serious like pit of motivation, man. It's like everybody posting their transformations and posting their workouts, and it was all based around basically all being fans of the Physiques of Greatness YouTube channel, which was Chris Jones and Vince Garza. And it's definitely, it was an important thing that Chris Jones did. If nothing else, it brought so many people to fitness and also together as like a tribe, as a group of people who like kind of motivated each other. So yeah, I remember watching you back then, and I remember that when you posted your transformation photo in there. early on. And, you know, I can tell you right now, I had no idea that of all the people in that group, that you were going to be one that was like, you know, grew a successful fitness business. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Never would have guessed it, man. Like, because there's so many people in that group, and there's so many people posting their transformations, myself included. It's like, who knew that Juan was going to blow up? Well, it doesn't just happen like that, does it? Like, he didn't just blow up. There's a lot to it.
Yeah, I know. That's been 8 years in the making. Like, some people who a lot of people who somewhat recently started following me, like, they think my business just kind of took off within the last like year or two, but no, it's just like fitness. Like, you don't build a great physique overnight. And I would say that my business really started like in 2012, 2013, when like that first person hit me up for like coaching advice, and I just started coaching them, because that's really where I learned a lot about how to coach somebody, how to provide good customer service, how to program for people like that. That's really when it first started. And I think that's how a lot of the most successful people are bred. Like, they end up loving it, and they don't do it for the money. And like, anybody who works with me, they know, like, dude, this is not about the money. Like, I've always been obsessed with doing this. As you could see, because I always used to post, I'd always ask people on the group, and like, everybody's response meant so much to me. Like, till this day, I still remember a piece of deadlift advice that you gave me. Like, I still remember you told me, you're all like, on my deadlift, you're telling me my lower back was rounding. And like, yeah. And I was all like, oh, I didn't even know that was a bad thing. But it's just like you said, like, man, that group was so important. Like, it really brought a lot of us closer together, because a lot of us we were all at our home gyms, kind of. Some people even trained, like, some people trained at their home gym, some people trained at a commercial gym, but fitness wasn't, I feel, as big as it was back then. Yeah. And fitness is bigger way more than it was back then. So a lot of us, like, we almost, like, our second life would start almost like when we'd get home and log on to this Facebook group page and like talk to people. And I'm still friends with a lot of people from that group. A couple of those people I ended up meeting in real life too. So yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, dude, it's been awesome to watch you grow from, like I said, from that skinny kid in that group, just trying to soak up information, to a guy who is now giving a lot of quality information to a lot of people for free. And also, you have built a business for yourself where you can actually, you know, make a living doing what you love. Like, what more can you ask for? Like, that's amazing.
Yeah. I love my life.
One thing that I really appreciate about what you do, and I kind of want to ask how much of this is strategic, okay? Like, one thing that I love about you is that you're very self-taught and you're very motivated to learn things. Like, I've noticed from a lot of your posts where you talk about reading so many books, you know, reading every day and learning something new all the time, and just all these like self-improvement things that a lot of people will say, like these cliche things like read a book a day, you know, whatever, things like that. But most people don't actually follow, but you seem to. And it seems to have paid off for you. So tell me a little bit about that, about like what you do self-improvement wise that you think fuels what you have done and your kind of trip forward in your business.
Yes, yeah, for sure. That's such a good question. Yeah, you asked a couple questions. I'll answer all of them right now. So I actually first I'd like to provide a little bit of context. Like, I actually know like the day where I learned the importance of like hard work and self-improvement. So earlier, like I was saying, like, you know, I'm an only child, so I didn't have much to do. And I remember my parents just randomly, they bought me a book about Kobe Bryant. It was like a biography of Kobe Bryant. Oh, wow. And in this book, Kobe talked about just working hard. Like, he practiced literally every day. He said, like, his routine was he'd wake up right before school, he'd go for a jog, and then during school, like in recess and stuff like that, like he'd practice his free throws or whatever. Then he'd get home and he'd practice all day, then watch film. And that's when I first learned the value of hard work and doing a little bit every day. So, right now what I do to try to constantly improve a little bit every day, I take what's called the slight edge or compound effect approach. If anybody's ever read that book, The Slight Edge, or if you've never read it, I recommend reading it. I just try to do a little bit every day. Like I tell myself, no matter how tired I am or no matter how busy I am, like by the end of the day, I have to do something, even if it's like as small as reading 10 pages of like a book a day, or not even, it doesn't even have to be 10 pages. It could be 5 pages, or maybe I'll listen to like a podcast, even if it's like five minutes, a business podcast, or maybe I'll read an Audible that talks about like even the most random things. Like I'm reading a book right now that's just called How to Analyze People, and it just talks about like how to read people's body language, like anything like that. Maybe I'll look at a YouTube video. And it's definitely not just, it doesn't, I am self-taught, like in that sense that I'll go out and I'll do my own research, but I still have coaches. To me, it doesn't matter like how successful as a coach I am. I always think that I can always learn from somebody. So I still hire powerlifting coaches. I've hired technique coaches. I'll still subscribe to like, all the websites that like the Mass Research Review. I subscribe to Lane Norton's website where he talks about all the science behind fitness. Like I still take even though I'm not going to school, like I still invest in my education. And to answer your question from earlier about like how strategic everything is, do you mean like in terms of like content and like things that I post?
Yeah, I was going to ask, okay, so I love your posts. I love them because there's like a real personal touch to them. It doesn't feel at all like you're trying to promote yourself in any way, but it still accomplishes that act of promoting yourself. It's like the perfect copy, okay? Like, and I've watched your writing evolve too. Like I said, from asking questions in the Facebook group years ago to these long, well thought out kind of stories on Instagram, going from anywhere from like bathroom humor to like a something that happened to you at the supermarket, and like, you know, turning that into something meaningful, right? And I'm in awe of it. I really like appreciate your posts and even your Instagram lives and stuff. Like you've got good stories there too, but nothing feels like you're trying to sell anybody anything, but I feel like it does sell you to people.
Dude, wow! I first of all, before I answer, I gotta say that this is probably the best podcast I've ever done. I've done a couple, but you really did your homework, dude. I appreciate that. So,
just remember, I didn't have to research anything because I actually follow you. You know what I mean? So it's not like I had to look up. I didn't have to Google Juan Salgado and read what they had on Wiki about you. Like, so yeah. Yeah, man, it's so awesome you've noticed all that. Like, dang. Okay, so yeah, so it is very strategic, where I do put so much effort into what I post, when I post it, and yeah, I always wonder too, like if anybody ever notices that. And it's really cool that you did. Everything is strategized. I won't just post things just to post it. Like I will always put a lot of thought into it. And yeah, even with my writing too. So my writing, like somebody asked me this the other day too, like how much do I write, and like how do I go about that? Like I'll write hundreds of captions, but like maybe only 10% of them will actually go up, because I'm that hard on myself on like what I want to put out there. And as far as like how I've done like the perfect combination of promoting myself, but never actually promoting myself, because if I don't know, I'm sure nobody keeps track of this, but I've actually only in the last 8 years, I've only promoted my coaching, I think 3 times, like where I actually made a post saying, yo, I'm offering personal training, I'm offering coaching, like hit me up. Right.
Yeah, I've only done that ever 3 times. Other than that, it's always just been me giving out content. And where I learned that from, I learned that from 2 ways. One, I kind of learned that by accident, but I also saw that from other people that I follow that I really liked. So, like my biggest fitness inspirations were Alberto Nunez, Matt Ogus, Chris Jones, Eric Helms, those people. And
Yeah.
I never ever saw them promoting their coaching services. They just gave so much content, like so much information and they always seemed like just genuine people where I had built this like trust in them. Before even really getting to know them, I just watched their stuff so much, and they put so much content out there that I just knew, like, okay, these are the people that I would want to work with. And so I learned that from them. But when I say I learned it by accident, when I first just started my fitness page, my Instagram page, the underscore chosen Juan 1, that one originally just started off as kind of like a little video log for my lifts and like my personal records.
Yeah.
And I didn't even really post a lot of content. I was just me posting my fitness videos and me just kind of like talking about what is going on in my life through fitness. It was almost like a little journal. And people would just DM me like asking random questions. So I just remember thinking like, man, if one person's wondering this, I'm pretty sure a lot of other people are. So I would just like make like a little mini video about it. And just from me doing that for so long, like a lot of people just started reaching out to me and asking me for coaching advice. So I just realized I'm like, I don't have to do all these like crazy like marketing tactics with like these crazy like ad copies of me saying, hire me as a personal trainer, 25% off, sign up today, go. Like I've never had to do that.
Right.
And I think that's also what made people realize like, oh, this guy actually cares about helping me. Like he doesn't care about just taking my money and stuff like that.
That's exactly what I got from it. Like, you know what I mean? It feels genuine, and I think that's the most important thing. That whole idea of like, you are kind of selling yourself, right? But you're not selling, come spend money with me, but you're saying, hey, this is me. This is me, you know, like me or not, this is who I am. And the people who gravitate towards your personality, a percentage of them are going to want help from you. So like it's perfect, man. I think it's awesome. And I think that you've done an awesome job in doing it that way.
Yeah. And then what I was going to add to that too is that it's super easy to tell also. Like people aren't dumb. People can tell when you're not being genuine. Because I used to be a personal trainer at the gym.
Yeah.
And there was people who were great salesmen. Like when I was a personal trainer at the gym, we used to always do sales training every day. And I was actually the worst salesman. Like my managers would tell me all the time, like if you became better at sales, like you would be an even better trainer. Like I already had enough clients, but they're all like, dude, you would have like double the amount of clients you have right now. And what's crazy is that the trainers who I could tell were just like college kids just kind of doing this for like a side hustle. Like they didn't really care about it. Even if they were really good at sales, sure, they would convince somebody to sign up with them for personal training, but a lot of them wouldn't end up sticking with it. So like they would just kind of like feel that like their vibes are off eventually. So I always feel like for anybody who's out there who wants to probably be a personal trainer or something like that, like you have to make sure you love this, because if you don't, people will be able to read through that.
Yeah, it pays to be authentic. Like I feel the same way. Like I don't like when I put out podcasts or I put out YouTube videos, I want to be talking to the viewer or talking to the listener. Like I don't want it to seem like I'm talking to this auditorium, to this audience of people who are there to listen to me. You know what I mean? It has a personal touch, and because that's how I really talk to people. And I think that's super important. Yeah, it has staying power. People care about coming back for more if they like who you are. Now, if you're not genuine, it very quickly becomes apparent, especially person to person. Like in a gym scenario, very quickly you can tell if someone's passionate about it or if they're just trying to make a buck. And yeah, like you said, the people, sure, they could sell a lot of first-time packages, but they had no staying power. Like no one wanted to keep training with them because they loved them so much.
Yep. And what's made my personal training very, very successful is that me and all my clients, we're all friends. Like me and my clients, like we have like very personal relationships. And in the beginning, that wasn't really my goal. It's just that it's something that kind of just ended up happening organically. just because, like I said, I care about people so much. And I think, like I said earlier, a lot of this stems from me just being an only child and not having a lot of friends growing up, that now anybody that I do meet, like, I'm just like, you're my friend for life. And like, I care about you a lot.
Right.
So yeah, me and all my clients, like we, you know, when they travel to powerlifting meets together, like we'll go out to dinner. We'll go out to dinner the night before. Sometimes like we'll all get hotel rooms. We'll like party afterwards. You know, they share with me their personal lives, and I've realized that the best trainers are people who also kind of they care a lot about the self-development aspect of it too. So that's kind of what my whole Instagram page is about too. Like, I'm not just a personal trainer who like cares about getting you 6-pack abs. Like, I also want to like make sure that you develop like healthy relationships with people, like that you cut out toxic people in your life and you try to find happiness in other areas of your life. So I think that's also what's helped me grow my business, is that it's a little different from like just a typical fitness page that you follow.
Yeah, I think that's perfect, man. It was perfect that you brought that up. It's like serendipitous, because I actually have written down here as a note something I wanted to bring up. And so your approach to coaching seems to be, and not just coaching like powerlifting, but being a mentor to people, right, is your approach seems to be to teach a man to fish, you know, which has always been my kind of outlook on stuff too. Like, if I'm giving someone advice, I don't want them to have to always need me in the future. I don't want them to always have to ask me every single question, because I want them to be self-sufficient. I want to build a person who can go out on their own and execute without my approval and, you know, without my direct instruction. Like, it seems like you have that same approach where you want to make people better people rather than have them dependent on you.
Yep. It's absolutely true. And so sometimes I stand by that so much that sometimes I think some people will sort of see my coaching style, and sometimes they'll almost think that I don't want. It almost will seem like I don't care, but it's not because I don't, but because you're right. Like, I do want people to also learn on their own. So, like, for example, like one thing that I learned early on is that you can't motivate people to do anything. Like, people have to. Motivation comes from within. So, like, I'm not one of those trainers where like I'm gonna text you every day telling you better go to the gym, like you better do your diet. Like, I'm gonna give people the plan. I'm here to guide you along the way. I'm here to answer questions whenever you have it. I'm gonna teach you. I'm gonna teach you everything. I'm always gonna give you good responses. But on top of that, like, you need to go out there and do your own work. Like, don't just take everything that I say and think it's a fact. Like, I always tell all my clients, like, don't just, like, if that one ripped guy in the gym gives you advice, don't just take for his advice and like think it's set in stone. Like, go out there and do your own research. Ask me a question. Even the questions that I answer, make sure that you go and you research it on your own, because I could be wrong. I never say that I'm perfect and that I know everything. So yeah, you're definitely right. I do take that approach.
Okay, now bringing it back to you were talking about earlier how you write. You must write all the time because you're writing all these captions, you said, but only 10% of them actually get published. So what is your approach to writing? Are you committing a certain amount of time each day where you like sit down and do this work and write for an hour or 30 minutes or whatever? Is there a part of your day or a part of your week where it's like, all right, it's time to write?
Yeah. So it's a little, I do have a little bit of organization with it. But it is also like I just kind of write when I am when I'm inspired. So I always have my phone on me, and whenever something just like comes across me in like the day, or it sparks a thought or something, I'll write it down, and then later I'll get back to it, or I might just drop everything right then and there and just start writing, because I'm that inspired, and I'll just dedicate like however much time until it gets done, and then I'll I'll leave it, and then later I'll come back and like edit it. But yeah, I try to make sure that at least every other day I write something, and it's not even so much for business. I found that it's just very therapeutic for me.
Yeah.
Like, it helps me really get my thoughts out. Something about just like actually like seeing your thoughts put into words. Like, you really it really helps kind of clarify things and just clear certain things up that would normally be like mumbled in like your brain, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, my whole approach to writing, there's a couple of rules that I've set for myself, and that's that whenever something is bothering me, something that I feel like I need to talk about, like, once I write it down, like, I let go. The issue is done.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't have to address it again. Like, I've done my piece with it. And then my second rule is that I'll never write about the same thing twice, and that's kind of how I keep myself getting better.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds like a good strategy. Like, I do it the same thing, okay, where there's a lot of times where I will drop everything. If I have an idea for a subject for a podcast I want to record, and I'll stop right there and I'll just start typing it out. Or I may be doing a voice memo, but I'm doing something to where it's putting itself down in print. And I do the same shit, man. I'll sit there for 30 minutes or something, hashing out an idea, or like words are just coming to me, you know. You feel really creative and get this little creative burst for a minute, and it's just like boom, 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 and it's all coming out. So I got to get it out now because it might not be there later. And like, I'll do that, and kind of like you, I'll come back to it later and, you know, edit it, reword it in the way that maybe I would like to say it to someone, rather than how I wrote it. And,
yep.
And yeah, I feel like, I don't know, I feel like it's a good strategy.
Writing is the most important thing, man, for sure. It's one of the most powerful things. I think it's a skill that everybody should try to get at least decent at, even if you're not in school, or even if you're not a businessman or whatever. I think that's a really important skill for everybody to have.
Yeah, I've recently, like in high school, I was really into writing. Like, I was in exemplary writers and shit like that, and like won some contests for writing, but I got away from it. You know, I mean, technology boom. You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't important anymore really to sit down and write unless you were a writer. And just in recent years, though, I found myself like wanting to put stuff into the world that wasn't there before, you know, whether it be a podcast or whether it be a book. And right now I'm planning on writing a book in the next year. And it's something that was always a wishy-washy thing for me, you know, like, it was always like, yeah, I want to write a book someday, or like, oh, I'd love to write a book about this, or I'd start writing a story and I get a page or two in and then I'm just not interested anymore. But I found that the best way to actually, like the only way to actually write or create anything is to actually sit down and do it, you know, and even when you don't want to, kind of like you were talking about earlier, like doing stuff that when you first learned about hard work and self-discipline, like that's what it is. And most of my ideas come from Stephen Pressfield and The War of Art, and where he talks about doing the work every day, whether you want to or not. You handle yourself as if it's your profession, even if it's not. And you have to do that work, and it may come out shitty and it may come out great, but you did that work for the day, and that's what's important. And you keep those creative juices flowing. So that's kind of my approach to it, and I agree wholeheartedly. Like, there are moments of inspiration like that where it's like you got to get it out. And then also to Stephen Pressfield's point, like, I think that's important too, the discipline of making sure that you don't go too long without doing it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's just like that. It's exactly like that in hip hop too. Like, so many artists say that they'll record like hundreds of songs, but and most of them will be like pretty crappy, and a lot of them will never even get released. But then they'll do it so much, and then they'll finally, when they get that hit song, like they'll put it out, and people will think like, oh man, like they're always just making all this like good music like every time they go in the studio. But now most of the time they go in the studio, it's it's stuff that's pretty bad, but they just force themselves to always go in there, always write something. And yeah, it's just like that exactly with writing. It's exactly like that too with like YouTube videos. A lot of YouTubers that I've followed, they'll say like that they'll have a bunch of videos that's just 500 views, 1,000 views, and then all of a sudden, boom, they have one video that just goes viral, and then that's the start of just like this upwards hill of success.
Yeah. 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 I can see that even now, like I have a pretty small YouTube channel, around 1,000 subscribers, and I might put out a video. I put out a video every day. Sometimes they hit and sometimes they don't. Sometimes they don't hit at all. Sometimes they get like 30 views. Right. But then every once in a while, there'll be one that people are just really interested in, whether it be a movie review or the way I broke something down or whatever. And it didn't go viral, but I might have 30, 40,000 views on it. You know what I mean?
Nice.
And it's like, and I feel like there's something about that, like just doing it every day and plugging away and keep going and you keep shooting your shot, man. Like there's no, like, why not keep shooting your shot every day? You know what I mean?
Yep. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, you have a better shot at one of them catching fire, right? If you're trying to start a fire every single day. Like, if you try to create a hit, it ain't going to happen. But if you set out to just, put art into the world, whatever it might be, writing, music, whatever, that if you keep putting it out there, there's at least a chance it's going to take off. But if you don't, there's no chance whatsoever. You don't have, if you're just trying to create that one perfect thing. I feel like a lot of people do that. Like they feel like if they do something, it's got to be perfect. So they never even get started.
Yeah, exactly. So I had a writing mentor a few years ago. Like I actually hired a writing coach for a little while to help me out with my writing, because I knew just how important it would be for my business and my life. And he said that a good way of just knowing if you're actually improving and actually putting in the work is that he said that you should look back at your writing from a month ago and just be disgusted at yourself. Just be like embarrassed, like, wow, I can't believe how I wrote that. I can't believe how bad that is. Mm-hmm. And one thing that I learned early on when I was starting to start my business is that you have to put out content every day, because making content is a skill just like anything else, and the more you do it, the better you'll get at it.
Yeah.
And I learned this from Jordan Syatt. He's Gary Vaynerchuk's personal trainer. Mm-hmm. If you don't know who Gary Vaynerchuk is, you're living under a rock. To anybody out there listening, make sure you YouTube him. So he said he said on his Instagram, he was like, a good way of just getting better at content is like buy a calendar and then set the goal that you're gonna put out content for the next 90 days straight. Mm-hmm. And he's like, I guarantee you, by the time you get to that 90th day and you go back and you look at your like first couple posts, like you're gonna be embarrassed and shocked at like how terrible you were.
Yes.
And sometimes when I look back at my writing and my posts from just a year ago, I'm just like, dude, this is so terrible. I can make this so much better. But it's just like you said, you just have to put it out every day. Don't worry about it being perfect. It will get better over time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So as you've been improving with this writing, okay, and I know I'm making this like about writing and not powerlifting, but I feel like you do plenty of powerlifting and coaching content every single day. So it's okay if we dive into some other stuff, right?
Yeah, of course. Okay. I just did a podcast 2 weeks ago talking all about powerlifting. So this is a cool little stuff.
Okay. Well, so with this kind of like side love for writing, right? Would you ever plan on like writing a book, whether it be fitness related or business entrepreneur related, or anything else?
So actually, two years ago, I wrote like it was like a 15-page ebook titled "Eating Out While Dieting." For anybody who wants to get that, that's in the link in the bio on my Instagram, _chosen11. It's just a book that teaches people like how to lose weight while you're going out to eat, and or how to lose weight while you're trying to like maintain a social life and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. I did it. I liked it. It was definitely a lot of hard work. I think I would want to do that someday. I just feel like I still have so much more to learn. I still feel like if I have maybe like 5 or 10 more years of like learning to go until I would feel comfortable putting out all my thoughts and ideas into like a book. Because do you remember a couple months ago how in Instagram the 10-year challenge was trending?
Yes.
Did you see that, where people are like, oh, this is my 10-year transformation?
Yes.
And one thing that I noticed, because I did that too, I was like, man, my thoughts have changed so much in 10 years, even in 5 years, even in 1 year. So I don't know. I don't want to do a book anytime soon, because I just feel like a year after I put out that book, I feel like I'll look at it and I'll just be like, wow, I don't agree with anything that I just wrote.
Right. Yeah. I feel the same way when I look back at old stuff. Like, it's like, who is that guy? I mean, I'm so glad I didn't write my memoir when I was 20. You know what I mean? It's like, oh my God, that would have been horrible. But yeah, I feel you in the same kind of way, like, because I've always wanted to write a book about my life experiences, right? And then my constant thought, though, in my head is like, who the fuck wants to hear about my life experiences? Like, I haven't done anything. I haven't accomplished anything yet. Like, not big enough that people would have that initial interest to read my story. You know what I mean? So, other than just writing a pamphlet about the everyman, like, I don't see how it would be interesting. But yeah, it's like, if I happen to accomplish something and I have some things to pass on to people, it would make sense to write a book. But I feel you in that, like, you don't feel like you're quite there yet. It's like you're only 26. Who knows what other ventures you'll be in the next 10, 15, 20 years. You might have several businesses. You might be into something completely different by then. Like, who knows? So what kind of experiences and what type of wisdom you'll be able to pass on then. It is a little young. I think that's a super, like, mature answer to say that, like, yeah, I'm not there yet. That's humble, dude. That's awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, it's because, and like I said, so much just changes. Like, even you never really know what's gonna happen. What's gonna happen in the world that might just want to make you change directions with stuff. So, like, for example, like I was actually looking at a podcast that I did about a year ago, and at the end of the podcast, the guy asked me like what were my goals, and I said that I wanted to open up a gym, and I was actually super close to opening a gym up, like literally right before COVID hit. Like, I was already looking at like places and stuff like that, and COVID hit, and I was like, wow, this is not a smart idea. And anyways, I ended up I ended up training at a different gym because I had to find a new location to take my clients. And after seeing, I've gotten really close with the owner. And the owner at this gym that I train at, shout out to Orange County Strength Club, he's the coolest person in the world. One of the coolest people, one of the smartest people I've ever met. And from seeing, like, the day-to-day of how it takes to run a gym, I've realized that, and like seeing how passionate he is about running his gym, I've realized that I wasn't even passionate about, like, opening up a gym. I just kind of wanted to say, like, oh, I'm a gym owner.
Right.
But where my true passion lies is in coaching. So, like, that a year ago, I was like convinced that I wanted to open up a gym. Now I'm just like, I don't want to open up a gym at all. I just want to train at a gym. So yeah, like, it goes back to just me saying, like, I don't know myself too well. I feel like I'm still finding myself. And maybe when I feel like I have a good grasp on who I am, and even more so on exactly a clear vision on what I want to do, maybe that's when I'll write a book.
Yeah, it's the stuff you're saying is resonating big time, because as you know, back in the 2013, 2014 days, like, I was trying to be a fitness YouTuber. And I was very much into putting out fitness-related content on YouTube. And it dawned on me a few years ago that I don't, whereas Juan is very passionate about training people. I realized I wasn't that passionate about training people. You know what I mean? Like, what I really loved about fitness is the act of doing it, how it made me feel, the overcoming insurmountable shit and like becoming stronger through it. Like, I love that aspect of it, but I don't know that I love the idea of teaching it to people. Mm-hmm. And so I looked at it, I'm like, and is this who I am? Am I the fitness guy? Do I want to be known as the fitness guy? And when I really thought about it, I was like, no, I really don't, because there's a lot more to, my personality, things that I feel like I am more passionate about putting out there publicly. I'm passionate about fitness, but it's like personally passionate. Like, I have my own fitness goals I want to achieve. I have my own like things to overcome, but it's not about, I don't want to teach people on YouTube. I don't want to, like you do, I don't want to necessarily coach people. I'd love to inspire people. I'd love to motivate people, but actually teaching them skills, I'm not passionate about it. So I took a step back and I was like, what kind of things am I passionate about? You know what it turns out I'm passionate about is random stupid shit. I'm passionate about pop culture. I'm passionate about, movies and TV series and stuff like that. And so that's where I kind of switched gears to, that's what I do on my YouTube channel now, where it's like, it's just, I wanted to represent everything about me and not this thing that I thought I wanted to do 10 years ago. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And when you truly like, learn, when you really find out what it is you love and who you are, mm-hmm. and you try to just really, double down on what it is that you're passionate about, I feel like success will always find its way to you. Like, a good example is like the Joe Rogan podcast. Like, yes. How would you even really describe what the Joe Rogan podcast is to somebody? You just say like, oh, it's this guy who smokes weed. He talks about DMT. Sometimes he'll talk about monkeys and animals. He'll talk about UFC. He'll just talk about a bunch of random shit that you would talk about with your friend, and he'll talk about it with the most random people. Like one day he'll have Kanye West on, and the next day he'll have Elon Musk on. Like,
yeah, it's wild. It's wild.
Yeah, that's a guy right there who he just loves to. He doesn't try to be anybody but himself. Yes. And that's one thing that you could really learn about Joe Rogan and just anybody else who's really been successful and what they've done. They always try to be themselves. And yeah, I kind of went through that like phase too, that what you said of like you wanted to be a YouTuber. I thought I wanted to do that too. Mm-hmm. When fitness was really popular, it seemed like everybody was trying to make a YouTube channel, and it seemed like all the guys that I looked up to had a YouTube channel. But I tried doing it, and it just wasn't for me. I didn't like the long hours of editing. Mm-hmm, I didn't like any of that stuff. And it seemed like all of the guys who were on YouTube, like, they loved that part of it. And, right. That wasn't me. Like, I didn't want to vlog every single thing. I loved coaching people. And, once I just tried to do only that, I ended up finding my way in my life.
Yeah, I feel like same thing here. Like, I hated the editing. I would spend hours editing, and I was like, fuck this, man. Like, now I basically do one take videos, and it's just me expressing myself on whatever subject I feel like talking about. And it's, it just feels so much better. It feels like, even though I'm not really talking about anything important, it feels like I'm actually expressing a part of me and not trying to force something that's not there. So, and also YouTube fitness for me, at least smaller channel wise, it became like a big circle jerk where I did this, this podcast a few weeks ago about this specifically, where it was all like these small YouTube channels, trying to promote themselves by befriending other small YouTube channels and watching each other's videos. And like thinking that like, well, if we do this enough, we'll blow up. It's like, it just doesn't work that way. People
are just trying to find shortcuts.
Yeah. It's not going to work. So and I fell into it for like a minute, and then I was like, how would this ever work? Like, what you want, the people you want watching you are the people that aren't out to make themselves blow up, the people who want the information you're trying to give, like, not the people who already know it. So, man, I feel like I went down that same kind of path with YouTube fitness, and it was just like, not really for me. not really for me. So, well, look, man, I know you're busy. I know you got to go. So we can wrap this thing up, but I'd love to have you back because it's been an awesome conversation. And I hope that, like, next time you come on, we can just bullshit. We can just hang out. We can talk about whatever, man.
For sure, man. I'd love to be on it. Like I said, this was definitely probably the coolest podcast I've ever had. You asked a lot of new questions. You already kind of knew a lot about me, so it was cool. It wasn't like we're just spent trying to, like, kind of get to know me. So yeah, dude, it's awesome, man. Dude, your podcast is definitely one that I think I would listen to for sure. Like the stuff that you talk about, it's definitely stuff that I talk about with all my friends. Yeah, I can't wait to hear it again so I could promote it and, like, put your name out there.
Cool. Thanks, man. I will, this podcast will go up tomorrow morning, most likely. And, so yeah, man, feel free, put it wherever you want. And, just thanks for coming on, man. Cause, like, I appreciate it. I have a list of people just that I know through social media and in real life that I really want to get on the podcast, that people I think are interesting to talk to. And you're right at the top of that fucking list. And so I'm super happy I got you on here.
That means a lot, man. Seriously, dude. So yeah, I appreciate that, and good luck with you and growing this thing and just, like, everything else going on in your life.
Cool, man. All right. Well, hopefully we'll have you back. Thanks again. Talk to you later, man.
Later.
Wow. What a fucking fantastic conversation. That was 100% off the cuff, but I couldn't have planned it any better. It was awesome. I hope you guys enjoyed it as much as I did. I can't wait to have that dude back on. If you guys want to follow Juan, and you can follow him on Instagram at _chosen1. And if you're at all interested in his fitness coaching, check out his website, JuanSalgadoTrainer.com. Thank you guys for listening. I will talk to you again tomorrow. Today I'm sitting down.